see that? Right there at the intro. October is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. My name is Tom Huskerson, and this is OnTechStreet. It is a blog that I write, and I'm the editor of. And what I talk about on TechStreet is all about the internet, what's going on in cyberspace, what's going on with your technology, your smartphone, your tablet, what's happening with your personal information, what is going on in cyberspace that you need to know of, that you need to be aware of. Because I'm going to tell you something about the internet. You better know what it can do for you, and you better know even better what it can do to you if you're not careful. October is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. This month's theme is Be Cyber Smart. So what we're going to talk about is passwords. We're going to talk about passwords. We're going to talk about two-factor authentication. A password is something that you're probably well aware of. You want to get into a website or log on to someplace. What do you need? You need your username and you need your password. Now, let me tell you something about a password. A password is both an identification and it is a key. It verifies who you are, but it also unlocks things once they understand who you are. So, if you don't have a good, strong, solid password, someone can guess it, it can be hacked. The next thing you know, you got a lot of issues. So let's start out by talking about passwords. I'm going to show you how to create a password using everyday knowledge from your life, how to create a good, strong password using special characters, and I'm also going to show you how you use these things from your life to remember that password, okay? If you don't know how to remember a password, I'm going to show you how. If you can't remember a password, remember that your browser often has a password generator. If you don't use a password manager, you might want to consider starting using one that will help you remember passwords as well. So let's begin by talking about passwords, and then after that, we'll talk a little bit about two-factor or multi-factor authentication. Here we go. Building a strong password. We're starting with our friend Shanice here. Now, a little background on Shanice. Shanice is married to Jared. They have two children, Alicia and Jared Jr. or JJ. Jared is a graduate of UCLA class of 1998, and Shanice is a licensed practical nurse. What you're looking at is the makings of a good, strong password that Shanice can easily remember. Let's start with the parts of Shanice's life and use them to construct a password she can easily remember. Okay, first, let's use her husband's name, Jared. Shanice starts with his initial, J. We'll make it uppercase. Shanice's daughter, Alicia, was born in 2015. Let's add that. And we'll use just the 15 here. So now we have J15. Alicia was born in Houston, Texas. So let's add that to the password by using the @ symbol. Now we have uppercase J, 15 at lowercase h, uppercase t, lowercase x. Notice what we did. We used the @ symbol and a single uppercase letter to create what we have so far. Shanice was very excited by the birth of her first child, so we'll add an exclamation point for good measure. Now we have uppercase J, 15 at lowercase h, uppercase t, lowercase x, exclamation point. It's starting to look like a pretty good password so far, so let's keep moving. Now, Jared attended UCLA and he got a degree in pharmacy medicine. Let's use that. Shanice is going to add her own abbreviation for this by using uppercase U, lowercase c, uppercase p, lowercase m in her password. Now we have J15 at lowercase h, uppercase t, lowercase x, exclamation point, uppercase U, lowercase c, uppercase p, and lowercase m. What you're seeing is Shanice using different parts of her life with some slight modifications to create a strong password. Now, this is just one trick to creating and remember complex and strong passwords. You may have your own way of doing it, but this is just one way of doing it, of course. And remember that most websites now, they require you to use a complex password. So when you go to create a password, you'll see a little box that'll pop up and it'll say you have to use an uppercase letter, a lowercase letter, a number, a special symbol, and it has to be so many digits long or so many characters long. So sometimes that can be up to 15 characters. Usually it's between 8 and 12. Let's finish the password off with a few more characters. Shanice got her nursing license in 2009, And let's not forget Jarrett Jr. or JJ. Let's add those last few characters. Now we have uppercase J 15 at lowercase h, uppercase T, lowercase x, exclamation point, uppercase U, lowercase c, uppercase P, lowercase m, 009, then an uppercase J and a lowercase j. That's a pretty strong password. It's pretty lengthy. It's got all the requirements for special characters, lowercase, uppercase, and numbers. Okay, so creating a password, you can use any type of tool you want. This is one trick to doing it. And of course, as I mentioned, you can also use the password generator in some of your browsers. So that's another thing you can do there as well. That's it. It's that simple when it comes to creating a password. There's some things that I want you to understand about your password. First, when it comes to a password, the longer, the better. Use those letters, use those numbers, use those special characters. The reason for that is because a long, strong password is not easily guessed. Someone is not going to just go out and guess your password. Number two, your password is very hard to crack using some type of password cracking or password breaking software. In this particular example, it would probably take them around 15 million tries before they got to that particular combination of letters and numbers. That's just the fact, okay? Password hacking software, they're out there, but they're very successful at people who use very simple, easy to guess passwords. So that's something you want to keep in mind. Another thing you want to keep in mind is make sure that you write down your passwords on a piece of paper or something in a notebook and keep them in a secure place like a locked drawer or locked file cabinet in your home. You want to do that because we know that things happen. Somebody may steal your laptop or your tablet. Something may happen to it. It breaks, gets wet, fries, whatever it is. So you're able to have those passwords available to you so you can immediately change them, of course, if someone steals your computer or your tablet, but also because we know that things happen and, maybe the thing will crash. There's so many different scenarios that could happen where all of a sudden you need to know your passwords. And if you do something like you save them in your cell phone or you save them in your tablet and you don't have them any other place, then you could be in trouble. Another thing I want you to understand is that passwords, because they are long and complex, they can be difficult to remember. You have to use a password manager, but you don't want to use passwords across multiple websites. I said that before. Make sure that you use a different password on each website. The reason that's important is because if someone gets one password, then they have the password to multiple websites and access to multiple devices. And here's what's really important about that. A hacker or someone who's attempting to hack you may not necessarily be even after you. They may be attempting to get into your employer's network. And if you're the kind of person that uses the same password across multiple accounts and multiple devices, they get one password, they have access to your company network, and that causes a lot of problems. So you want to make sure that you are using a password for different websites, a different password. Simple as that. The next thing you want to do is understand what two-factor authentication is. Two-factor authentication is actually another layer of security. Let's talk about two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication, having two or more methods of identification validation online is valuable and sometimes even necessary. So what I want you to pay attention to is these two words, identification, validation. Your identification is essentially your username and your password. That identifies you to the website. Now, validation is the next step in two-factor authentication, and what that does is the website will use a method, a two-factor method, to validate that you are who you say you are using that username and password. Some websites, especially government and banking websites, require a second verification step to ensure security. Why is that? Well, that answer is fairly obvious. To begin with, the government has a lot of information about you, including your social security number, tax information, tax ID, government benefits information, all kinds of things are going on there. You know the government has a lot of information. They want to keep it secure. And banking, of course, is your money. That could be your bank account, your checking account, your savings account, investment accounts. If you have a business, it might be a business account. All of that stuff there, that of course is extremely valuable, extremely important that you keep it secure. And normally these websites will require you to have a second step or two-step verification. Not always, they don't always do that. So you can often find that even if they don't make it mandatory, you can implement it yourself. They will usually offer two-factor authentication. If you go to your security settings on the website where you change your password or do other things, you can usually find the option for two-factor authentication under the security settings. So I would suggest you do that, especially for any type of government website, any type of banking, anything has to do with your money. The next thing we're going to talk about is, what is two-factor authentication? I have people ask me that question all the time. What is it and how does it work? Well, the short answer is it's just another form of identification in addition to your username and password, but it uses an alternate channel or a different tool to validate that identification. Now, when I say alternate tool or alternate channel of authentication, that can be your email, it could be a text message. The website will actually transmit a numeric code to you via email or text message. Once that shows up on whatever device that you are using, you take that number and you enter it into the website. The website then authenticates who you are, and it will unlock the website. And that's pretty simple, straightforward way it happens. Sometimes the website will require you to use a self-generating authentication code from an authenticator app on your smartphone or other device. Now, let's talk about what an authenticator app is. An authenticator app is an app that you can usually download it from the Google Store, the Apple Play Store. And what it does is it syncs up with your website. It connects to your website. And the app and the website will communicate to one another a number. That number is embedded in the website in your particular account, and that same number will show up on the authenticator app on your smartphone or your tablet or whatever you're using. Here's the catch. That number is usually only good for about 60 seconds. And there's a little indicator on the app that tells you that time is about to expire. This code or this number will disappear and a new one will appear. So it's basically telling you you're either going to have to wait for the next number, or you better hurry up and enter that particular number. After 60 seconds, the number will change. You have to start all over again. There's a lot of different authenticator apps on the market. These are the two most popular. We're talking about Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator. Again, you can download them from the Google Store. You can download it from the App Store. You can download it from Microsoft. Once you download the Authenticator app, the instructions on how to sync it with your particular online account is fairly simple, fairly straightforward. You can get it done. Once it's done, you have that layer of security. Now, there's other methods for two-factor authentication. I'm talking about fingerprints, facial recognition, and other tools that you can use. Now, you don't see a lot of these on many websites, simply for the fact that a lot of computers, or not all computers, have fingerprint readers. A lot of computers have cameras, but they don't have the facial recognition technology or software put in. So 9 times out of 10, they're going to use the numeric form of two-factor authentication. However, depending upon what company you work for, whether you work for a government agency, they will use form of biometric information to use as a form of two-factor authentication. When I say biometric, I mean that's usually something about your body that can be unique to you. Fingerprints, iris scans, facial recognition, all these other things. But you usually won't find those on too many websites. However, if you go to work for a government agency or a company that handles sensitive information or a lot of money, investments, things like that, you will find these devices in that environment. Two-factor authentication just basically adds a second layer of security by making you take an additional step to prove who you are and that you are the person that is assigned that username and password. Listen, two-factor authentication is not hard, doesn't take a whole lot of time, and it can really be a lifesaver. It can really protect you. Anytime you can add another layer of security that's fairly simple to operate to your banking, to your business accounts, whatever it is that you're doing, your information on government websites, I would suggest you do it. All right, we've talked about passwords, we've talked about usernames, we've talked about two-factor authentication. Basically, we have talked about what it takes to use the internet. It takes a username, it takes a password, and it takes a little bit of security, which is what two-factor authentication is. Let me explain something to you about the internet. The internet is probably one of the last places that you will find almost no rules or regulations once you enter into that digital realm. And when I mean digital realm, I mean out there in cyberspace, amongst the servers, amongst the wires, and all the rest of that. The internet is a very dangerous place. Here at OnTechStreet, we're doing everything we can to help Black people and help everybody really to understand what is going on online and how to protect yourself. Make sure that you use a username and password. Make sure you use a good, strong username and password. Make sure that whenever you need to, and I would say that's 100% of the time, use multi-factor or two-factor authentication. These are just simple things that you can do. There's a lot of things going on out there. I'm going to do my best to keep you informed. I'm going to do my best to help you when it comes to these type of things. But you got to help yourself. You got to do a little bit of extra work here and there to make sure that you're safe online, to make sure that your children are safe online. And that's what we do here on TechStreet. We help you understand and know what's going on. I like to say it's less tech and more knowledge. So I want to thank you for spending this time with me here on TechStreet, and hopefully we'll see you next time. And remember, be safe, be secure, and during National Cybersecurity Month, and always be cyber smart. Thank you again. My name is Tom Huskerson, and this has been On Tech.